My closest friend told my boyfriend I hooked up with her brother during her birthday party. Can you imagine waking up one day and realizing your entire friendship, a bond you thought was stronger than family, was nothing but a carefully orchestrated lie? A lie designed to destroy your life and steal the person you loved most? Because that's my reality right now, and honestly, the sheer audacity of it all still makes my blood boil. Just 3 short weeks ago, I found out that 6 years of shared secrets, inside jokes, and unwavering support meant absolutely nothing. I'm oscillating between wanting to just scream until my throat gives out, or crawl into bed and never ever move again. And trust me, I'm not guessing here. I have concrete, undeniable proof. But to truly understand the depth of this betrayal, and why it cuts so unbelievably deep, we have to go back to the beginning. This isn't just about losing a boyfriend. It's about losing the woman I genuinely thought was my sister. Mara and I first crossed paths in 2019 at a totally random house party. We were both 22, both feeling a little out of place, both hovering awkwardly near the snack table, pretending the cheese selection was the most fascinating thing we'd ever seen. She cracked some joke about being there purely for the free food, and I laughed way too hard. And somehow, just like that, we exchanged numbers. Within a couple of months, we were completely inseparable. You know, the kind of friendship where you don't even need to text before showing up at each other's apartments? The kind where you have a dedicated drawer of your stuff at their place? Yeah, that was us. We literally did everything together. Holidays when we couldn't make it home. Devastating breakups. Navigating stressful job stuff. You name it, we faced it together. She was my rock when my mom got sick in 2021, and I had to fly back home for 3 weeks to help my dad. Mara didn't just water my plants. She checked my mail and sent me those dumb, encouraging memes every single day. When her own grandma passed in 2022, I drove 4 hours to be at the funeral, even though I had to call out of work and really couldn't afford the gas. That's the kind of friendship this was. 6 solid years of building something I truly believed was unbreakable. Then came Christopher. I met him in January of last year through a group outing with some friends. Just a casual bowling night. He was someone's cousin, visiting from out of town, but he ended up moving here permanently a couple of months later. We clicked instantly. He had that dry, sarcastic humor I absolutely adore, was super close with his family, which I found incredibly sweet, and just genuinely kind in a way that felt rare. He'd remember tiny, random things I'd mentioned weeks before. He'd notice I was having a bad day before I even opened my mouth. He got along with my friends and I got along with his family. His mom even told me she was thrilled to finally have a daughter since she only had sons and Christopher. His sisters treated me like I'd been part of their family forever. Mara liked him too. Or at least I thought she did, in that normal way your best friend approves of your boyfriend. She'd hang out with us, joke around with him, and constantly tell me how lucky I was. Looking back now, of course, everything looks different. But at the time, I had zero reason to suspect anything. None. She never flirted with him in front of me. Never made any weird comments. Never gave me any shred of doubt that she saw him as anything other than her best friend's amazing boyfriend. Her birthday was March 15th. She was turning 28 and wanted to throw a house party at her apartment. Nothing wild, maybe 30 people, but she put a lot of effort into it. Had a whole theme going, a custom playlist, the works. I spent that entire afternoon helping her set up, putting up decorations, arranging furniture, and taste testing her jungle juice, which by the way was way too strong, but hey, it was her birthday. The party itself was actually really fun. Christopher came with me, obviously. We were having a great time, dancing, chatting with people, all the normal party stuff. At some point around 11 p.m. I think I went to the bathroom and then got pulled into a conversation with some of Mara's coworkers I'd met before. That chat lasted like 20 minutes because one of them was dealing with a nightmare landlord situation and wanted advice. By the time I got back to where I'd left Christopher, he wasn't there anymore. Neither was Mara. I didn't think anything of it. It was her party after all. She was probably mingling, and he was probably getting a drink or talking to someone else. I found him maybe 15 minutes later, outside on her little balcony. He seemed totally normal. We stayed at the party until about 1 a.m. and then went back to his place. It was a normal night. A good night, actually. The next day Christopher was weird. Not obviously weird, but just off. Quiet. He was texting a lot on his phone and immediately putting it face down after, which he never used to do. He'd just leave his phone wherever, screen up. I asked if he was okay, and he just said, "Yeah, just tired." I believed him. Why wouldn't I? 2 days after the party, he called me while I was at home and said, "We need to talk." His voice sounded strange, flat, cold, in a way I'd never heard from him before. I asked what was wrong, and he said he couldn't do it over the phone and could he come over? Of course I said yes, even though my stomach was already knotting up because nothing good ever follows a "we need to talk." When he got to my apartment, he sat on the couch and wouldn't look at me for what felt like an eternity. And then, he finally said that someone had told him something at the party, and he needed me to be honest with him. I told him, "Of course, about what?" And he asked me point blank if I had slept with Mara's brother Theodore. I think I actually laughed. It was such an absurd question. Theodore lives in Portugal. He moved there in 2020 for some job opportunity and has been there ever since. I've met him exactly twice in the entire 6 years I've known Mara, both times when he came back for holidays. The idea that I slept with him was so ridiculous, I didn't even know how to respond. I told Christopher that Theodore literally lives in another country and asked what the hell he was talking about. Christopher then dropped the bombshell. Mara had pulled him aside at the party and told him she felt horrible, but she couldn't keep lying to him anymore. She said she saw me and Theodore together at Christmas, and didn't know what to do, but finally decided he deserved to know the truth. I just stared at him. My jaw must have been on the floor. I told him that Theodore wasn't even at her apartment that Christmas, he hadn't been in the country since then, and that I was with Christopher for literally all of those 5 days Theodore was here, except when I was with my own family. I asked him if he seriously believed I cheated on him with my best friend's brother, who I barely know, and who lives on another continent. Christopher said he didn't know what to believe anymore. He said Mara was crying when she told him. Shaking. She seemed genuinely torn up about it. She even gave him specific details about when it supposedly happened, where what she saw. I was losing my mind at this point. I kept asking, what details? What did she say? Because whatever she told him was a complete lie, and I needed to know what I was defending myself against. He wouldn't tell me exactly what she said. Just kept repeating that she was very specific and very convincing. And then he kept coming back to it. Why would she make something like this up about her own best friend? What would Mara possibly gain from destroying our relationship if it wasn't true? I snapped. I told him, maybe you should ask her that because I have no freaking idea why she would make this up, but she did make it up. And you're sitting here accusing me of something that literally could not have happened, because the person I supposedly cheated with wasn't even in the same time zone. He said he needed time to think, that he wasn't accusing me, just confused and hurt and didn't know what was real anymore. I begged him, please just think about the logistics. Theodore is in Portugal. I was with you almost every day over Christmas. When exactly was this cheating supposed to have happened? During the 45 minutes I wasn't directly in front of you. He left without really answering, just said he'd call me. The next few days were an absolute hell. I called Mara immediately after Christopher left, and she didn't answer. I texted her, what the hell did you tell Christopher and why? No response. I called again. Nothing. I even went to her apartment and knocked for 10 minutes straight. Either she wasn't there or she was completely ignoring me. I was going insane trying to figure out why my best friend would tell my boyfriend I cheated when I didn't, and when the person I supposedly cheated with wasn't even available to cheat with. Christopher and I texted back and forth over those days. He kept saying he was trying to figure out what was true. I kept telling him the truth was that I never cheated and Mara was lying and I didn't know why. I asked if he'd talked to Theodore, if anyone had bothered to verify whether Theodore was even in the country. He said he didn't have Theodore's contact info, and didn't feel comfortable asking Mara for it given the circumstances. On day 4 of this nightmare I finally got Mara on the phone. She picked up and immediately started talking before I could even say anything, going on about how sorry she was and she knew this was hard for me, but she couldn't watch Christopher be deceived anymore. And she hoped someday I could forgive her for telling the truth even though it hurt. I cut her off. Stop with the act, I told her, my voice shaking with rage. We both know nothing happened with Theodore. I want to know why you're doing this to me. She got quiet for a second, and then her voice changed. It got hard. She said she saw what she saw and wasn't going to let me gaslight her into thinking she was crazy. She insisted she walked in on me and Theodore at Christmas, and it was burned into her brain. And the fact that I was trying to deny it and make her look like the liar was honestly disgusting. I asked her, "How could you walk in on something that didn't happen?" She retorted that she wasn't going to sit there and be manipulated, and maybe I should focus on fixing things with Christopher, instead of attacking the person who had the courage to tell him the truth. Then she hung up on me. I tried calling back 4 times, but she didn't answer. By the end of that week, Christopher told me he thought we should take a break. He said he didn't know who to believe and needed space to figure things out. I begged him to talk to Theodore directly, to get actual confirmation that Theodore hadn't been anywhere he could have been with me. He said he would try, but I could already tell he'd made up his mind about something. The break became a breakup 3 days later. He texted me. After everything we'd been through, 14 months of what I thought was a really solid relationship, he ended it over text. He said he couldn't be with someone when there was this much doubt and uncertainty, and he hoped I understood. I didn't understand. I still don't. I cried for 2 days straight. I barely ate. I kept replaying every single interaction, trying to figure out where this came from. Why Mara would do this. What I could have possibly done to make her want to destroy my life like this. And then, exactly 19 days after the party, I saw it. On Instagram, Mara posted a picture of her and Christopher, his arm around her, with some caption about finding happiness in unexpected places, and being grateful for people who help you through hard times. She tagged him, tagged the location, some restaurant downtown I'd never even been to. I clicked on his profile, and there were more pictures of them together. One from what looked like a hike, one from someone's backyard, all within the last 2 weeks. All while he was supposedly taking space to figure out what was true. They were together. Officially together. She posted him. He posted her. Comments from her friends saying they were so cute together. Comments from people we mutually knew acting like this was totally normal and fine. I texted Christopher. "What the hell is going on?" He said he and Mara had gotten close while he was dealing with everything, and one thing led to another. He said she understood what he was going through, because she was also losing a friend, and they helped each other through it. He said he was sorry if this hurt me, but he had to follow his heart. Follow his heart? To the girl who lied about me cheating, who made up an entire story about her own brother to break us up, who then swooped in to comfort him and somehow became his girlfriend within 3 weeks. I tried to tell him again that she lied, that this whole thing was a setup, that she invented the Theodore story to steal him from me. He said he didn't want to hear me badmouth Mara anymore, and that I should try to move on for my own sake. Then he stopped responding. So here I am. My boyfriend is now dating my ex-best friend. My ex-best friend destroyed 6 years of friendship by telling an impossible lie that somehow worked. And I have literally no way to prove she made it up, because the only person who could confirm Theodore wasn't with me is Theodore himself. And I don't have any way to contact him. And even if I did, why would he get involved in this mess? I've been going back and forth on whether to reach out to our mutual friends and tell them what really happened. Part of me wants everyone to know the truth. Part of me is terrified they won't believe me either. If Christopher didn't believe me, why would anyone else? Mara's always been the more outgoing one. The one who makes friends easily, the one everyone loves. I'm the quiet one who people know through her. If it comes down to her word against mine, I already know how that goes. The worst part is I still don't fully understand why. Was she always in love with Christopher? Did she just decide she wanted him and meticulously plan to get him? Did she hate me this whole time and I never saw it? 6 years of friendship, and I'm realizing I might never have known her at all. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. I know this was long, but I needed to get it all out somewhere, because I honestly feel like I'm going to explode if I keep holding it in. Any advice or even just support would mean the world right now. Update: a lot of you had questions and theories, and honestly, some of you picked up on things I hadn't even fully processed yet. So, I want to give you all an update because a lot has happened. After I first posted, I spent about 2 days just kind of existing. Not in a dramatic way, I was functioning, going through the motions, but my brain was stuck in this endless loop of replaying everything over and over. A bunch of you suggested I reach out to mutual friends and tell my side before Mara could spin her narrative. And honestly, I knew you were right, but I was scared. Like, genuinely terrified that everyone would take her side. And I'd lose not just my boyfriend and best friend, but my entire social circle. But then I realized that was probably already happening anyway. I started noticing little things on social media. People I thought were my friends liking Mara's posts with Christopher. Comments under their pictures from people who definitely knew we'd been together. Nobody reaching out to check on me. It was like I'd already been erased from the story. There's this girl, Sydney, who I've known for about 4 years. We met through Mara actually, but over time we'd gotten close on our own. We'd grab food sometimes, just the two of us, text about random stuff. That kind of thing. I considered her a real friend. Not just someone I knew through Mara. So I texted her and asked if we could meet up because I needed to talk to someone. And I was losing my mind. She agreed, but she was weird about it. Her responses were short, and she suggested this random taco place pretty far from where we both live. When I asked why there specifically, she just said she felt like tacos. Looking back, I think she didn't want anyone to see us together, but at the time I was just grateful someone was willing to listen. When we met up, she already had this expression on her face like she was bracing for something uncomfortable. I started telling her what happened, the real version, and I could see her face doing this thing where she clearly wanted to believe me, but also wasn't sure she should. I told her about Theodore being in Portugal, about the timing not making any sense, about how Mara wouldn't even talk to me properly before everything exploded. Sydney was quiet for a while, and then she said something that really threw me. She said Mara had already talked to basically everyone, and the story she was telling was that I had been cheating on Christopher for months, that Theodore was just the one she happened to catch me with, and that I had apparently confessed to Mara a while back that I wasn't really happy with Christopher and was looking for a way out. I literally had to set my fork down. I couldn't eat anymore. I asked her if she was serious and she said, yeah, that's what Mara was telling people, that I was the one who wanted out of the relationship, and Theodore was just the final straw, and that Mara felt horrible about eventually developing feelings for Christopher, but that she had always tried to be there for him during this difficult time, and it just happened. The audacity of this woman. The audacity. Not only did she make up a lie about me cheating with her brother who lives across the ocean, she then created an entire backstory where I was apparently unhappy and looking to leave Christopher anyway. She was literally rewriting our entire relationship to make herself look like some kind of innocent bystander who just happened to catch feelings while comforting a broken man. I asked Sydney if she believed that version of events. She hesitated for way too long before saying she didn't know what to believe anymore. She said Mara had been really convincing and really emotional, and that she'd never known Mara to lie about big stuff. I asked her if she'd ever known me to lie about big stuff, and she admitted no, but then said this whole situation was just so messy, and she didn't want to take sides. That hurt more than I expected. I told her I wasn't asking her to take sides. I was asking her to consider that maybe the person who ended up dating my boyfriend 3 weeks after breaking us up might have had an ulterior motive. She said she had thought about that, but Mara had addressed it directly. Apparently told everyone she felt terrible about the timing, and tried to fight her feelings. But Christopher was just so hurt, and they bonded over their shared pain of both losing me in different ways. Shared pain of losing me. I didn't do anything. I was the one who got lied about and dumped. And now apparently I'm the villain who hurt both of them so badly they had to comfort each other right into a relationship. I left that lunch feeling worse than before. Sydney hugged me and said she was sorry I was going through this and hoped the truth would come out eventually. But she clearly wasn't going to be the one pushing for it. She wanted to stay neutral, which basically meant she was going to stay friends with Mara while keeping me at arm's length until this all blew over. Classic. A few days later I did something probably stupid. I drove to Mara's apartment. I know, some of you are already typing about how I should have just let it go and focused on myself, but I needed answers. I needed to look her in the face and hear her justify this to me directly. Not through Christopher, not through Sydney, directly. She answered the door and for a second she looked almost scared, like she wasn't expecting me and didn't have her story ready. But then her face shifted into this expression I can only describe as pitying. Like she felt sorry for me. She asked what I wanted and I said I wanted to know why. Just why? After everything we'd been through, 6 years of friendship, why would she make up something like this? She did this heavy sigh thing and said she didn't make anything up. She said she knew what she saw, and she was sorry it destroyed my relationship, But she couldn't lie to Christopher just to protect me. I asked her what exactly she saw because I wanted specifics, since apparently she'd been telling everyone all these details. She said she walked into her guest room at Christmas and saw me and Theodore. And that was enough. I told her. Theodore wasn't at your apartment that Christmas. He stayed with your parents the whole time because your mom was sick and wanted him close. She paused for just a second, just barely, before saying she remembered it differently. I asked how she could remember it differently when it literally didn't happen, and she just kept insisting she knew what she saw. Then I asked her about the other stuff. The stuff about me being unhappy in my relationship, about me wanting out, about me supposedly confessing things to her. Where did all that come from? She said I used to complain about Christopher sometimes, and she had always wondered if I was really committed to him. I told her, everyone complains about their partner sometimes. That doesn't mean they're cheating or want to leave. She got this look on her face like she was done entertaining my questions. She said she understood I was upset, and she understood I probably needed someone to blame. But she wasn't going to stand here and let me accuse her of lying when she was the one who had the courage to tell the truth. I told her there was no truth because nothing happened, and I don't know what she thinks she saw, but Theodore was not at her apartment that Christmas and I was not with him anywhere, ever. She started closing the door and said, maybe you should focus on figuring out why you felt the need to cheat, instead of attacking the people who cared about Christopher enough to be honest with him. I stuck my foot in the door, probably not my best moment, and asked her to just admit it. Just admit you wanted him, and made this up to get him. She laughed. A cold, dismissive laugh. She said I sounded pathetic and desperate, and maybe Christopher was right to leave me. The door closed. I stood there for a good 5 minutes just trying to process. She didn't crack at all. Either she genuinely believes her own lie somehow, or she's a way better actress than I ever gave her credit for. Either way, I left with nothing except more confirmation that she was never going to admit what she did. After that confrontation, I kind of spiraled a bit. Not in a dangerous way, just in a can't stop thinking about it way. I started going back through old texts and photos, trying to find any sign that Mara had feelings for Christopher before this. Any moment where she looked at him too long, or said something weird. I found nothing. She was always perfectly normal, perfectly friendly, perfectly supportive of our relationship. That made it worse somehow. The fact that I couldn't see it coming at all. Either she was playing a really long game, or something changed at some point that made her decide she wanted him. But what? What happened that made her go from my best friend to someone who would destroy my life for a guy? Around this time, Mara's cousin Livia started showing up more in my peripheral awareness. I'd met Livia a bunch of times over the years. She was at most of Mara's family things and some of her bigger parties. She's maybe 3 or 4 years younger than us and always seemed like the type who wanted to be included in everything. Not in an annoying way exactly, just very eager to be part of whatever was happening. She'd always been friendly to me, would comment on my photos sometimes, that kind of thing. I noticed she was suddenly in a lot of Mara and Christopher's posts, like in the background of their pictures, commenting heart emojis, posting stories about hanging out with them. It stung seeing it because it was like everyone had just moved on and accepted this new reality where Mara and Christopher were a couple, and I was apparently the cheating ex who brought this on myself. One night I was in a really bad headspace and I ended up going out with Kenzie, this girl I know from way back who isn't connected to any of the Mara drama. We went to this bar we used to go to in college that I hadn't been to in years, just wanted to drink and forget everything for a few hours. We were there maybe 2 hours when Kenzie went to the bathroom, and I was just sitting at the bar messing with my phone. This guy sat down next to me and started chatting me up, and I was politely trying to shut it down when I heard someone say my name from behind me. It was Livia, Mara's cousin. She was clearly pretty drunk, swaying a little, and she had this weird energy like she was excited to see me but also nervous. She told the guy next to me to go away, which he did, and then she sat down in his spot. My first instinct was to get up and leave because I figured anything connected to Mara was just going to hurt me. But Livia grabbed my arm and said, "Wait." She wanted to talk to me. I asked about what, and she said she felt really bad about everything, and she knew the whole situation was messed up. I asked her what she meant by messed up. She said she just meant, like the whole thing with you and Christopher and Mara, how it all happened. I asked how she thought it happened, and she gave me this look like she was trying to figure out how much to say. Then she said something that made me freeze. She said she knew Mara had been planning this. and she felt weird about it from the beginning, but she didn't think it would actually work. Planning this. Planning this. My mind reeled. I asked her what she meant by planning. She started to answer, but then Kinsey came back from the bathroom, and Livia suddenly got all weird and said she had to go find her friends. I tried to stop her and ask more questions, but she was already backing away, saying she probably shouldn't have said anything, and she was really drunk and she needed to go. I spent the rest of that night losing my mind. Planning this. Mara had been planning this. It wasn't some impulsive lie she told at the party. It was premeditated. She deliberately set out to break up my relationship so she could have Christopher. Kinsey asked what happened and I told her, and she was just as shocked as me. She kept saying, "Oh my God," over and over. We left the bar not long after because I couldn't focus on anything else. That night I couldn't sleep at all. My mind was racing, trying to piece together when this plan started. Who else knew? What exactly had Mara done to set this up? The fact that her own cousin knew about it and felt weird about it from the beginning meant it wasn't just something Mara came up with on her own or in the moment. This was discussed, planned, executed. I texted Sydney the next morning and told her what Livia said. Sydney texted back asking if I was sure Livia said that. If she was drunk, if maybe I misheard. I told her. I didn't mishear someone saying my best friend planned to steal my boyfriend. Sydney went quiet after that and didn't respond for hours. When she did finally respond, she said she didn't know what to do with that information. She said Livia was known for being dramatic, and maybe she was exaggerating or misremembering or just stirring up trouble because she'd had too much to drink. I asked if she seriously thought Livia would make up something like that, and she said she didn't know. But she also didn't want to accuse Mara of something that's serious based on a drunk comment from her younger cousin. So basically, Sydney still didn't fully believe me. Even with Livia literally confirming there was a plan, there was still enough doubt in everyone's mind that Mara got to keep her perfect image. I knew what I had to do. I needed to talk to Livia again. Sober this time. I needed to find out exactly what she knew and exactly what Mara's plan was, and get her to actually confirm it in a way nobody could dismiss as drunk rambling. I found Livia on Instagram and sent her a message. Nothing confrontational, just, "Hey, you said something at the bar that I think we need to talk about more. Can we meet up?" She left me on read for almost 2 days. Then she finally responded and said she didn't think that was a good idea. She said she was drunk and said more than she should have, and she didn't want to get in the middle of this. I told her she was already in the middle of it by knowing what Mara did and not saying anything. She said it wasn't her place to get involved and she was sorry, but she couldn't help me. I was about to give up when she sent another message maybe an hour later. She said she felt guilty about the whole thing, and it had been eating at her, but she was scared of what Mara would do if she found out Livia told me anything. She said Mara could be really mean when she was mad, and she didn't want to deal with the family drama. I asked her to please just meet with me once. Just tell me what she knew. Even if she never spoke about it again after that, I just needed to know the truth so I could stop feeling like I was going insane. She didn't respond that night. The next morning she texted and said, "Okay, one time, but I had to promise not to tell anyone she talked to me." Promised. She said she'd meet me at this park near her apartment on Saturday afternoon. That's where I'm at right now. I have a meeting with Livia set up for this weekend. I'm terrified she's going to back out, or show up and refuse to tell me anything useful. But I'm also weirdly hopeful for the first time since this all started, because if Mara really did plan this whole thing, if there's actual evidence of it, then I finally have a way to prove I didn't do what she accused me of. Some of you are probably going to tell me to just move on and forget about all of them. And I get that. I really do. But I can't let Mara get away with this. She stole my boyfriend, destroyed my reputation, and turned all my friends against me based on a lie. A planned, premeditated lie. If Livia knows the details of that plan, I need to hear them. I'll update after Saturday. Please send good vibes or prayers or whatever you believe in, because I need Livia to actually show up and actually tell me the truth. After weeks of feeling powerless and crazy, this might be my only chance to finally prove what really happened. Last update. Okay, so Saturday happened and I have a lot to tell you all. This is probably going to be my last update because honestly I'm exhausted and I think I finally have some closure, even if it's not the kind I originally wanted. Livia showed up. I was genuinely shocked because I spent all morning convinced she was going to bail. But she was there at the park when I arrived, sitting on a bench looking nervous as hell. She made me promise again that I wouldn't tell Mara she talked to me, and I said yes, even though at that point I didn't really care what Mara thought about anything. She started talking, and honestly, it was worse than I expected. She said Mara had been interested in Christopher since basically the second time she met him, like months into my relationship with him. She never said anything to me, obviously, but she would talk to Livia about it, about how Christopher was exactly her type, how she couldn't believe I had found someone like him, how it wasn't fair that I always got the good ones. I asked what she meant by always got the good ones, and Livia got uncomfortable and said there had been a guy before Christopher, someone I dated briefly maybe 4 years ago, that Mara had also been interested in. But that relationship ended on its own, so Mara never had to do anything. This time though, me and Christopher were serious. Really serious, and Mara apparently couldn't handle watching us be happy anymore. The plan started forming around January. Mara would vent to Livia about how she couldn't stop thinking about Christopher, and how she knew it was wrong, but she felt like we weren't right for each other anyway, and she would treat him so much better. Livia said she thought it was just venting at first, the way people complain about wanting things they can't have, but then Mara started talking about how she needed to do something about it. The Theodore lie was calculated. She picked her brother specifically because he lived far away and couldn't easily deny it. She figured if she said she saw something at Christmas, it would be her word against mine. And she was confident Christopher would believe her, because why would a best friend lie about something like that? She told Livia she was going to do it at her birthday party because there would be alcohol and emotions, and it would seem more believable that she finally broke down and told the truth after holding it in for months. Livia showed me the texts. She actually pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots of conversations between her and Mara from January through March. Mara talking about her plan. Mara asking Livia what she thought the best approach was. Mara literally typing out that she was going to tell Christopher she caught me with Theodore, and then be there to comfort him after. I sat there reading these messages and I genuinely felt sick. Not in a dramatic way, just this deep, awful feeling in my stomach, seeing my supposed best friend type out her scheme to destroy my relationship in casual texts like she was planning a party. There was one message that really got me. Mara texted Livia like a week before her birthday, saying she was nervous but excited, and that she knew Christopher would need time to process, but she was going to be patient and let him come to her naturally. She literally wrote, "He's going to need someone to lean on, and I'm going to be right there." I asked Livia why she never warned me, and she said she honestly didn't think Mara would go through with it. She thought it was just talk. And then when it actually happened, she was scared to get involved because Mara was family, and she didn't want to start drama. I wanted to be mad at her, but honestly I was just grateful she was finally telling me the truth. She let me screenshot everything. Every single message. And then she asked me what I was going to do with them. I thought about sending them to Christopher, making him see what Mara really was. But honestly I realized I didn't even want him back anymore. A man who would believe some fabricated story over me without even verifying the most basic facts? Who would break up with me over text? Who would start dating my best friend 3 weeks later? I didn't want him. Let Mara have him. They deserved each other. But I wanted his family to know. His mom, who told me I was like a daughter. His sisters, who treated me like I'd always been there. They deserved to know what kind of person was inserting herself into their family. I made a group chat. Added his mom. His 2 sisters, Felicia and Viola, who I still had numbers for from when we'd planned surprise things for Christopher. I didn't add Christopher himself. I just sent every single screenshot with a message explaining what happened. That Mara made up the Theodore story to break us up. That she had been planning it for months. That I had proof from her own cousin. Then I turned off my phone and didn't look at it for 6 hours because I couldn't handle waiting for responses. When I finally looked, there were a lot of messages. Felicia had responded first, just a bunch of shocked reactions and questions. Viola said she always thought something was off about how fast Christopher moved on. And his mom sent this long, furious message about how she was horrified and disgusted, and that she had welcomed Mara into her home and treated her like family. And this whole time Mara was scheming. The best part was what his mom wrote at the end. She said she told Christopher directly that she would never accept that scheming girl as a daughter-in-law, that Mara was not welcome at family dinners anymore. and that she couldn't believe he fell for such obvious manipulation. Christopher texted me later that night, the first time he'd reached out since everything went down. He wanted to know why I sent those screenshots to his family, saying I had no right to involve them. I told him, I had every right to defend myself against lies, and if you had bothered to verify anything Mara told you instead of just believing her, none of this would have happened. He tried to defend himself, saying Mara had been so convincing and he was confused and hurt. I told him I didn't care anymore. You made your choice and now you get to live with it. With a girlfriend his entire family hates. With a mom who thinks he's an idiot. With sisters who are never going to look at Mara without seeing those screenshots. He asked if we could talk in person and I said no. There was nothing left to talk about. He chose to believe a lie over me and he chose to date the liar. That's on him forever. Last I heard from Felicia, Mara tried to come to a family dinner last week, and his mom literally asked her to leave in front of everyone. Christopher apparently tried to argue, but his mom wasn't having it. Said she refused to break bread with someone who manipulated her son and destroyed an innocent girl's reputation for her own selfish gain. Mara and Christopher are still together as far as I know, but from what I can tell, she's basically banned from his family. His mom won't acknowledge her. His sisters refuse to speak to her. Every family event is awkward because either Mara doesn't come, or she comes and gets iced out completely. I don't know if they'll last. Part of me hopes they do, honestly. Let them have each other. Let Christopher spend the rest of his life with a woman his family despises, always wondering in the back of his mind what else she's capable of lying about. Let Mara have the relationship she schemed and lied to get, except without any of the family acceptance she probably fantasized about. Anyway, that's it. That's the end. Sometimes karma takes a while, but when it hits exactly where it hurts most. What would you have done in my place when Livia showed you those texts? And have you ever faced a betrayal this deep from someone you loved? Tell me what you think, I really want to know.